welcome to episode 518 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How you doing this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. Grinding some standard this past week, and
Whoa!
Wait.
you guys all debated me.
What are you playing? Are you playing the Esper Pixie Blink style deck?
No, I played the Dimir version, and I was promised of a wide open standard, and like just literally every deck is a this town ain't big enough deck. Whether you go Dimir or you go Esper or you do some weird combination, but every single deck is that or a Hauntwood deck, and I'm like, you guys lied to me. It's not diverse at all. What's going on?
I will say it's gotten a lot worse in the last week. Like since the big tournament in Atlanta, everyone is playing this town ain't big enough deck. So it was more diverse when we were talking last week than it has been. But yeah, that deck is everywhere now. But we got another co-host in Krim. Krim, it looks like you're back home. Yeah, are you doing okay? I know you've been dodging fires over the past week.
It's been a long week. I'm back home, but luckily, I'm very fortunate that that all my stuff's still here. I've been worried about a lot of the fire stuff going on. But on top of that, though, yo, dude, I want to say shout out to your Bills for absolutely dumpstering my Broncos. By the way,
I'm like, how did Denver even make it to the playoffs? But here we are.
Yo, whatever. Ahead of schedule. There's a lot of drop passes. There's a lot. Okay. The QB is good. Everybody else around him right now, the Broncos need some help. They need some help.
I mean, I will say, I think Broncos are going to end up being pretty good. Like, in the NFL, if you get a quarterback, everything else is going to fall into place. And I think you actually found a quarterback. Like, I'm just pretty impressed with just, like, how good Bo Nix looks. So I think the future is probably looking bright. And then the Bills probably going to get stomped next week by Baltimore anyway. I'm very worried about that because the Bills usually get stomped by Baltimore. So, but it was nice for this weekend. Anyway, we got a lot of Magic stuff to talk about. We're going to be jumping around today. We got the full Innistrad Remastered set. We got a random Aetherdrift card. We got some news about how they're going to reprint things for secret lairs. We have some paper Magic drama. So we're going to be jumping around to a bunch of different topics. Before we get into it, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay a 5% service fee. Or if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with your results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic. And let's start with what I guess is maybe the big news of the week, Innistrad Remastered. So it was kind of a weird spoiler season. They didn't do like a real spoiler season where they had a bunch of people like spoiling cards. Wizards kind of mostly just spoiled them all themselves on their stream and on the website. But we have the full set now, and I'm just curious what y'all think of this set. So Richard, I guess maybe let the viewers know a little bit about what's in the set, and then we can kind of break it down. So what are the big hitters in Innistrad Remastered?
I don't know, Seth. So it's cards across the Innistrad sets. I don't know why we needed to reprint them. But then you have, so they're all reprints, no new cards.
Yep.
And then you have old bordered versions of cards. So some of the heavy hitters like Avacyn, Angel of Hope, Liliana the Veil, and then you have movie poster cards. So what's the most famous movie poster card? I can't think of one, but like the horror movie ones, like Rise of the Dark Realms, Beast Within, like those are the ones we've had, the Secret Lair versions. You have like Avacyn, Gristlebrand, Olivia, Emrakul, and then Edgar Markov is a serialized movie poster card. I don't know what to make of the set, Seth. Like, why do we need these? And why did they put some of the best cards at the highest rarities that you cannot get, like, say, Edgar Markov? And I'm curious what you guys take about, like, the 8th revisit of these horror movie poster things. The first time I thought they're pretty cool, but I feel they're kind of doing it too much. And like, why are like white cards like Cathar's Crusade getting like the horror movie poster treatment? It's a little off to me. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this set?
Okay, let's start with the easy one. The movie poster cards, I love them. Like, I think they just look super cool. The art is really neat. Just the style of that, like the Grizzle brand looks so epic with like the text is kind of on its wings, and like even the Gitrog monster looks really cool with like just the frog sticking inside. So I don't know. I'm not done with them yet. It hasn't went all like full art lands. Full art lands, I'm just like, you see them every set. They're not special anymore. We haven't gotten there quite with movie posters yet. So I do like the movie posters a lot. The set itself, it just confuses me. Like, it's so strange. The cards that we really need to get cheaper, like Edgar Markov, are at Mythic and gonna probably not drop that much in price. There was a lot of, well, not a lot, but several big hitters. Parallel Lives, Cavern of Souls, that are like $30-$40 cards that are rares from Innistrad that didn't show up in the set at all. But then we got like Hermit Druid reflavored as an Innistrad card to get the value up. So the set just confuses me. I don't really understand. It looks like the value's kind of mid for being a premium product. I imagine this is a set where if you're going to crack a box, you really want to hit like a big movie poster card or like one of the special treatments in some special foiling. Otherwise, I don't know, Krim, what do you think about this set? To me, it looks decidedly mid outside of some of the special treatments that I like, but what do you think?
That's really generous that you would call it mid. I think it's trash. I think this is wow. Okay, so I will go right out and say that I think the horror posters are the best part of this set, and a phenomenal thing. I unlike the full art lands, I will never get tired of these, right? Like, I can promise you that. The Meat Hook Massacre one looks amazing to me. The Gristle brand, all of them look phenomenal. Now, the problem for me with this set was the fact that right now you're selling me a bunch of bulk, and that's really all it is. If you're going to sell me bulk, sell me good-looking bulk. I think this is a little bit like posters, double feature. Yeah, well, that's the thing. The movie posters are the only thing that look good to me. I'm over the fake retro borders, right? Like, I'm over those cards. All the normal looking cards are just like, once again, more bulk. So this is just one of those things where I question, like, why does it exist? It got close to do it. They did it. They were just towing the line of doing it right. They showed the movie posters. Okay, maybe they could have made more cards come in the movie poster printing, right? Like, yes, that's new art pieces. Yes, that's more taxing on the cards and whatnot. But dude, it would have at least given me a reason to want to pay the premium price of this set. So now that I've seen everything, it's just like, what, $10 a pack or something like that, $20 a pack, who knows? And I'm just gonna open cards like Delver. Right? Like, hey, I love my Delver. I love a Delver. All right. Okay. I love Delver. Hell, I even love Snapcaster, right? You got to remember, I love these cards, but for the most part, everything in here's like $1, $2 tops, right? You have Captivating Vampire as I think sitting at the rare. That one's like kind of decent. Conjurer's Closet, but all of that's going to drop even more. So I just don't think this set needed to exist at all, unless you'd have done the full horror movie poster set.
Yeah, maybe they could have went even deeper on that. Oh, what were you going to say, Richard?
It's weird because they chose, like, not exactly Commander staples. Like, are you going to bling out your Yawgmoth deck in Modern with Borderless Young Wolf? Right? And then, the Richard favorite, like, Thraben Inspector Borderless card. Like, I don't, there's like some weird cards in here, like Infernal Grasp. Phil might appreciate Tireless Tracker, even though it's not old bordered. Rooftop Storm is in here. It looks good. Thalia has had a lot of social media talk here. Heretic Cathar looks like Gear 5 Luffy. I don't know what's going on, but the art is kind of controversial on that Thalia. Hullbreak Horror, like, it's just weird. Heartless Summoning is sweet, unplayable, but it looks good. Cryptolith, right? It's just a weird smattering of cards. I can't see myself forking over premium pack dollars for this. And
yeah,
if anything, you just go buy the singles of your Gitrog Monster movie poster and call it a day. Like, I don't know what this is for exactly. This is not for constructed players. It's not really for Commander players. Krim, the biggest lover of Innistrad, is down on it. So like I don't know who this is for anymore, right? Like it's a weird choice of cards. Why did they choose to make this? I thought this was like an arena set at first, right? I'm like, I don't know. They just kind of put some cards on arena. Yeah, so it's a weird choice of cards, but I maybe people's love of Innistrad goes deeper than we thought, and they'll just scoop it up for Innistrad, but I don't know. Seems like a weird choice.
If it wasn't so expensive, I'd be a lot more on board with it. I think that's kind of the issue. If this was a normal, like, normal $100, whatever it is now, $130 for Play Booster Box, like, if that was the normal price set, I'd kind of be on board. But last time I looked, it was like $200 for a Play Booster Box, like $320 for a Collector Booster Box. So you're kind of paying a lot, considering there's just not that much value, which is almost weird to me because I think of Innistrad as like a pretty high value set. I think of $100 Lilies and $80 Snapcasters, but all those cards have like dropped so much in price that they're really scraping around, like trying to find value in Innistrad. And then they made some weird choices on top of that. Like Craterhoof Behemoth, they did this weird thing with the retro cards where like Craterhoof, one of the most expensive and probably best cards from an Innistrad set, from Avacyn Restored, but it's only in the retro border bonus sheet. So it's not like actually in the main set. So you're only going to get a very small, same with Snapcaster is another like retro bonus sheet card. So you can't get a normal version in the pack. You only will rarely get one of these like special treatments. So I just don't know what they were thinking. To me, it feels like that one of the issues with the set is it didn't have enough value. And then some of the choices they made with like Craterhoofs and Snapcasters and leaving out Parallel Lives and whatnot keeps the set even lower value. And it seems like you could have solved the value problem if you wanted to without doing anything super weird. But I don't know. Are you going to do anything with this set? Like, how do you handle this?
Is this cursed or what? They have double-faced old border cards. Have we had that before? Is this the first time?
Ooh,
it's happened.
What is it, like Huntmaster?
Like all of them, like Huntmaster, Wedding
Delver.
Ring, Delver, Westvale Abbey, Ambitious Farmhand.
Actually, it might
be. It looks cursed to me, so I'm like, this has to be the first time we've seen this, right? Like the good old 2-for-1 old border. You get the backside and the front side now. I'm curious what Phil thinks about this. He's a big old border lover, but I look at Emrakul the Promise and an old border, and it makes me want to puke.
I like the old border still. I'm a big believer. Although the
mana symbol,
like it is a little
the set
weird.
symbol makes it look weird. I don't know. And then the artifacts also look weird, and gold look weird to me.
Did you see the Lily? Her art is also cropped weird on top of that.
Is it new art Liliana? Or is it the same art?
No, it's still Steve Argyle, original Lily of the Veil, but the art is cropped differently. At least it is online. I don't know if it'll look the same when it's printed.
This old border.
But the top of her head is cropped.
It's old border, but then it's like modern Planeswalker templating. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So one of the weird.
It's Phil's fault. It's Phil's fault.
Hey, I like the old border too. I'll take the heat for that one. But I gotta ask you guys one more thing about this set. So one of the weird things about this set that they've never done before in one of these remastered sets is move cards from other planes or other sets into Innistrad. So we got like Through the Breach, we got Mass Hysteria, we got Hermit Druid, cards that weren't originally from Innistrad. When I first heard about this, my initial reaction was kind of negative, like, that's weird. Why are we putting on Innistrad cards in Innistrad Remastered? But now that I've seen them, I think it's actually kind of neat to have, like, I can play a Mass Hysteria that has werewolf flavor now. You get the Innistrad flavoring on these cards that weren't originally from Innistrad. What do you think of that choice? Is that something... Let's say you do another one of these remastered sets, which they will eventually. Should they go back to that and embrace that? Or did you think it was kind of odd to see non-Innistrad cards in Innistrad Remastered?
I mean, why not? I think I like the artwork of Mass Hysteria. It fits on the plane, so
yeah.
I guess it works, depending on the card. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think the flavor of the set, whether or not they had like a SpongeBob card here, it wouldn't matter to me, right? Because I think they just missed out on a cool opportunity to do a cool horror themed set with horror treatments. So
hey,
for
at
me,
least it wasn't black and white.
I actually like the black and white, believe it or not. Like I like that, but that was the thing. They didn't even do that. They could have also done old border, but with black and white art. And and when you do black and white, You really got to do it right. You can't just do it like some kind of cheap, literally strip it of color and then call it a day. You have to touch up the art so that it looks good, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot of effort.
Wait, did they do that for the black and white cards?
No, that's the problem.
Okay.
That's why, like, I mean, I some of them are really good. Some of them are really good. But like, yeah, I think the offset stuff, I don't really mind it as long as it flavorfully fits.
Yeah,
you like they're leaning into nostalgia here, and unfortunately, nostalgia is great to look at and like, I remember that card. But then it's all right, well, now I spent $20 on a pack that has $2, maybe.
Yeah.
They do it for Universes Beyond all the time, right? Like stuff becomes Fallout, stuff becomes Warhammer or whatever, right? So I don't think it's a big deal as long as they do it properly. Like they put the flavorful cards in, like the Hermit Druid. I think you look at it, you're like, okay, that looks like it could be Innistrad, right? So I don't know that this is a problem at all. Like when we're in the world of SpongeBob and Final Fantasy and Avatar, like, yeah, you can take some random card printed. Like I'd actually want to see them take like Surveil lands or Shock lands or whatever and start like spreading them into other sets. Like they don't do it because the name of the card is a very specific planes. So I don't see why anyone cares. I'm like, yeah, there could be a Gruul Turf on Innistrad. Who cares? like give it to me, right? So maybe they're gonna go in that direction now that they've done this. So better reprints for us. We're not restricted to having terrible sets like Innistrad Remastered. We can just print it in whatever set they feel like, right?
Better lands would be nice. That was one of the things that hurt the value of this set is like the Innistrad lands are pretty good. I still play them a little bit in Commander, not as much as I did when they first came out because we keep getting more good land cycles, but I still play them in some Commander decks, but they reprinted them pretty aggressively in Doctor Who and some other Commander precons, so they're not really worth that much.
What are the Innistrad lands? Check lands?
The like enters untapped as long as you have 2 other lands.
Innistrad
Shadows
or something?
Those ones, whatever they're called. Yeah, so they're only worth like $2 or $3, even though they're like pretty good. So it would have been nice if they could throw shocks or fetches in here. So I could get behind that in the future. But anyway, let's move on. Oh, go ahead, Grim. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say they at least gave us collective brutality.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you never know when you might need to do some escalation.
That art is fire, though. The borderless.
The fire. Dude, Cultivator Colossus. Have you seen that thing? That thing looks creepy as hell. I love the art of that.
There is some really good art on the special treatments for sure. I think that's one of the highlights. Movie posters and some of the new art is really good in the set, but I just wish it was a little cheaper. But let's keep moving on. We got a new Aetherdrift card, just one. Spoiler season for Aetherdrift starts next week, next Tuesday, I believe it kicks off. But we got an early spoiler, a new vehicle. Richard, what is this new vehicle?
All right. Lifecraft Engine, a 3 mana 4/4 vehicle, so 3 generic mana. As this vehicle enters, choose a creature type. Vehicle creatures you control are the chosen creature type in addition to their other types. Each creature you control of the chosen type other than this vehicle gets +1/+1, crew 3. It's a rare, by the way.
It is a rare. It is a rare. So I like vehicles that do things when they're not turned into creatures. So I think it's kind of cool that you get this Anthem effect, especially if you're, in a deck with a lot of creatures of the same type. So I think it's a neat design. It doesn't read super push to me. Like, I don't know. We just haven't seen Anthems be that playable for the most part over the last few years. So I'm a little skeptical that this is going to be enough. I guess if you're in a Commander deck as like a tribal deck that also has vehicle synergies, I guess this fits. But I don't know. What do you think of the playability of this card? Krim, is there any standard ramifications for this?
No. Like this is definitely bulk. But I will say that I think the artwork's cool. I like that. Cool. The vehicle, like the design space also of this vehicle is interesting. It's fun. But definitely not that good of a card. Now, obviously, maybe I would play it in my, whatever random Kindred decks, right? But other like for Commander, but Standard it has like no play.
Even there, Richard, like, does this make the cut in like a Commander deck? Do you think, like, in general?
Terrible. I don't. Okay, so I don't know. People do play Honor of the Pure and like these weird, like very cheap Anthem effects, maybe, but it doesn't do anything, right? It's just a 3-mana Anthem, and then you crew it into a creature, but it's like crew 3. It's not cheap. If it like drew cards when it attacked or something like Kindred Discovery, like maybe you could see play, but I think the only dual type I could think of is like dwarves or something, like some creature type that actually cares about vehicles. But like even then, this card probably sucks. So I think it's straight to bulk. I mean, this is like a Kaido emblem or something. Like Kaido also draws you cards and beats your face down and has ninjutsu and like I don't know, right? In standard, it pumps up the land. I don't know. So I think this is bulk, but it's rare for some reason. So I don't know. And they chose this to lead their spoiler season as well. So I'm not really sure. Maybe we're gonna see some insane synergies.
You know, I think that's the hope for this card is actually the turning all of your vehicles into creatures of a type that you choose. Maybe there's some combos that like that is a unique effect, right? We haven't really seen a card that turns your vehicles into creature types. So I feel like maybe there could be some synergies there, like some combo potential.
Chariot, Smuggler's Copter. Those are like the only playable vehicles like we've ever had.
Hardikiran was good.
Oh, Hardikiran.
Those are.
I mean,
like
let's not forget Looter Scooter, right? Like,
I mean, Looter Scooter, yeah, but like if you have Looter Scooter, are you putting Lifecraft Engine in your deck, right? Like you need like a critical mass of good vehicles. And usually we don't get that. Usually it's like one insanely broken vehicle. Because the problem is, if you draw 3 vehicles, your hand is dead, right? Like they can't crew each other. Like I guess if they make pilots on ETB or something, right? But like the archetype itself is kind of scuffed to begin with. So I don't know. Are there any existing tribes or creature types that can take advantage of this? Like mice or something? I don't know, right? Like what could we possibly
this is
do?
Way too slow for mice.
Yeah. Right? I mean, because I feel like even in Standard, you have like War Leader's Call. Like there's even if you really do want to pump your team, there are other options that are probably better. I think your like Dwarves thing is actually the best answer. Like if you have Magda as your commander or whatever, being able to tap your creatures has a lot of value. Maybe that's the synergy. Like this is a free way you can tap stuff down when you need to. So maybe something like that. But I think this, to me, it looks like a pretty fringe card, unless there's some weird combo around turning your vehicles into a creature type, which I haven't found it yet, but who knows? Maybe it could exist. But I'm sure we'll see a lot more Aetherdrift next week when we kick off full spoiler season. I guess the spoiler theme sort of continues. Actually, I guess these are not exactly new cards, but we found out a little bit from Wizards about what they're going to do to reprint Secret Lair drop cards. And I'm curious what you guys think about this. So this is kind of a two-parter. So first, Wizards announced today they're doing some D&D themed promo cards that they're giving away at local game stores from April 25th to May 25th. So these are cards that were originally in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Secret Lair drops. And they are reprinting them as new characters, which is weird to me because I thought D&D was already considered to be in-universe as far as Wizards was concerned. But essentially, they're reprinting them as new characters, also in the D&D universe, and giving them away as promos. What do you guys make of these D&D cards? I'm so confused.
I absolutely hate it because you can't tell that there's both. So Rachel Fists of Torm. Tell me what the D&D version is because neither card references the other. So at first glance, it's not obvious to you that it is the same card as the other card. So I don't know. And like, are those D&D cards like in hot demand or something? Like, why did we?
They are very expensive.
They're
all very expensive. Like the Mathai Surge Channeler card, that was Simon. The white one was the Paladin card, and like as you know, Edgin. They also have Thunderchode. Like Thunderchode, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
But like he's in here, and that card alone was like $70. The dragon, and then Edgin, which is Bon Beguiling Balladeer. That dude was like $40-$50. So every card in this. Funny enough, I think the weakest one was the Jurin leading the charge. I think that one was like maybe $20. But if the cheapest card is $20, that's. This whole drop was absurdly pricey.
Okay, so like A Realms Forgotten, like D&D proper are not considered universes beyond, right? So if you look at the bottom of the card, it's a circle holo stamp, but the D&D movie. So, the movie ones have the triangle. So they're considered Universes Beyond because it's the movie that's different than, generic D&D. So that's why they did the universes within version for those. And Krim is right. They're like insanely expensive.
They also had actors on the originals, right? I bet that might be part of it too. They probably don't own the rights to the actors' images to use them forever, so they probably had to go. They probably had to go universe, yeah.
And you had Hugh Grant as well. You could just play Hugh Grant as a Magic card.
I mean, I didn't realize these are so expensive. That's actually a pretty nice incentive to go out to your LGS. I guess it's for limited events, so you're gonna have to do some drafting. But if you can actually get one of these promos that's like a $20 or $50 card just for hanging out and drafting, seems like a pretty good deal. We also found out, speaking of local game stores and secret lair drops, so one of the controversies or issues we've had is, how do you reprint cards that are new cards, exclusive mechanically unique cards printed in secret lair drops? Wizards had cracked this with the list, but then the list went away when they changed boosters and got switched to play boosters. So they've been trying to figure out how to reprint these cards, because we've seen some pretty expensive ones, right? Rick is $50, Storm is $50-$60. So how do you reprint these cards? Wizards announced today they're going to do a test, a secret lair test, and I'm curious if you guys think this actually fixes the problem. So what they're going to do is when they print a secret lair drop that has mechanically unique cards, so not every lair drop, only ones that have new mechanically unique cards, they are also going to print a limited quantity of non-foil drops and send them to WPN local game stores, and you'll be able to buy these secret lair drops from your local game store just like you would through the internet. Why supplies last? Going to be limited supplies, so they're going to run out. What do you think of this? I guess this is a two-part question. One, what do you think of this idea, this change? Is it a positive, a negative? Second, does this actually fix the issue of reprinting secret lair, unique secret lair drop cards? What do you think about this test?
No. I mean, how many are they sending to LGSs? Can't be that many, right? I think
it's got to be.
The only thing people care about is price, okay? Like, if it's some like terrible garbage card and it's exclusive, you can only get it as a promo, and it's like $1 on the secondary market, no one will blink, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, whatever, right? But if it's like $60, then people are like, oh, Wizards, why don't you make this accessible, right? So then that's when people care. So it doesn't matter. I feel this is less about availability of secret lair than it is about throwing LGS as a bone. Right? Because Wizards is always like, oh, we support LGSs, except we're selling on Amazon direct to customers. And then secret lairs, you just buy directly from our website. So you have no reason to buy from an LGS ever again. So they're just doing this to show like some support for LGSs. But like, are you taking your chances that you get one of 3 secret lairs from your LGS? Or are you just going to jam online with like 80,000 other people try to get your Final Fantasy secret lairs, right? Like, I feel there's no way there's any amount of sane quantity going to the LGSs. So you're all going to fight hand over fist. And then also, for sure 1000% that they're going to be scalped, right? So if it is a sold out secret lair like Storm, right, then there'll be LGSs that'll be like, well, market price is 4x. I'll sell it to you for 2x only. Right. So
you're getting a deal.
Yeah. Like, I don't see how this helps anything really, but I don't know, maybe you're incentivized to go to your LGS.
I mean, I think that, like, so good news is it does help LGSs, at least in theory. So I like that part of it. It also maybe slightly takes some pressure off on like sales day for secret lair drops, when in theory you could, go to your LGS and pick one of these up instead of waiting in line. I don't know how much of a impact that'll have in practice. I feel like this very much misunderstands the supply problem, though. Like, if they're pitching this as like a way to solve the issue with reprinting these exclusive secret lair drop cards, I think you have the same issue, right? Like, if it's a popular secret lair drop, it's going to sell it online, it's going to sell it at local game stores, and then you're still in the same place where we don't have a mechanism for getting more Ricks into the market, for getting more Storms into the market a year from now or whatever as the prices climb. So, yeah, like, if they want to do this, I'm not against doing it. I just don't see how it solves what I think is the biggest issue of like not having an easy way to reprint these cards and letting prices get too high and people not being able to access the cards. So I don't think it solves the issue, but I don't know. I like that it helps local game stores, I guess. What do you think about all this, Grim? Any thoughts?
I mean, that's good that they're like making good on like wanting to support LGSs and whatnot. Like that part is very true. But I guess, yeah, like I'm very curious. Right now, I'm not sure this actually helps with the limited supply stuff. But I am very curious to see how it plays out. Just because, maybe there is a world where this does. I don't imagine so, but maybe there is. And regardless of whatever happens, it's just nice to see like support for from Wizards to any of your local stores.
Yeah,
I guess if they printed a huge amount of supply. Oh, go ahead.
If they allowed LGSs to order sold out secret lairs in unlimited quantity, so whatever they feel, like if you feel you can move 500 storms, let them buy 500 storms, then this would actually fix something, right? But if they're just like, wow, you get 2 storm secret lairs now, have at it, then that changed nothing, right? Because Wizards can always fix this on their own, right? Wizards could have just increased the number of storm secret lairs they wanted to sell initially, right? Or they could today just decide, hey, here comes a second run of storm secret lair. Like, get on the website, buy some more, right? Like their mechanism for making more already exists. It's called secret lair, print on demand, right? They could always do all of this, right? So this is some mechanism to help LGSs. And I really wish they're like, we're going to sell like 10,000 storms online. LGSs can buy unlimited storms after the online allocation runs out. And this is how you support your LGS, right? Your LGS is literally the only place you can go buy this once it sells out online. And they're not hamstrung by being like, we have demand for 300, but we have 2. So let's lottery it up, boys, right? Like, so, like that's usually the problem.
And that's a real concern, just based, and we don't know the supply of these, but just based on what we've seen in the past when Wizards does limited supply things like this to local game stores. Remember, like From the Vaults in your local game store gets like 2 of them, or like the secret lair, the Fetchland secret lair drop, and each LGS got like 3 of them, and like the thousands of people wanted them. So I am worried that the supply is probably going to be way less than we're thinking. So I'm glad they're trying something. Hopefully, if this doesn't work, they keep trying other things, because I do think we need a way to, get the prices down on some of these cards, or we will as we continue to go down this path of more and more universes beyond stuff. So hopefully they crack it eventually. All right, I have a question for you guys. So this came up. I'm very curious what you would do in this situation. So this came up, some drama. That's the best part about Paper Magic being back, right? We get to watch coverage and we get lots of drama about people cheating and scumming and doing all kinds of crazy stuff in Paper Magic. So this came up in Atlanta, and I'm just curious what you do. I'm going to give you the TLDR of this situation. I'm curious what you would do in this situation, or how scummy you think this situation is. So to set the stage for this really quick, match is being played. It's in game 3. One player is playing Esper Pixie. The other player's on Gruul. Their match is getting down near the end. The player that's on Esper Pixie, plays a Hopeless Nightmare to put their opponent down to 4, and then pretty quickly, according to how this is posted, says, I'm passing the turn on your upkeep. I'm going to blink this with a scroll shift, blink my Hopeless Nightmare with a scroll shift. In response to that, the opponent casts a Questing Druid to impulse draw some cards, and then the audience stops them, and they're like, wait. The first player never paid mana for their Hopeless Nightmare. They made a mistake during their turn. They didn't pay mana for the Hopeless Nightmare. So they have this big judge call. It eventually gets appealed to the hedge judge. The judges say, we went too far, we can't reverse it, so we're not going to make you tap the mana for this. And it turns out that the difference between having 3 mana left over and 2 mana left over was the exact amount to let the player cast another scroll shift to blink the Hopeless Nightmare and actually just win the game on the spot. So it actually determined the winner of the game. And this has caused a lot of controversy, both because people think the judge call might not be right, but the other main thing people are upset about is if you're in that situation, even if the judge says we can't reverse it that far, the right thing to do would just be to concede or to tap your land anyway, because that's how the game should have been played. Even if the judge says we can't go back that far, that would be the ethical thing to do. And I'm curious what you think of that argument, because when it comes to ethics in the Pro Tour, there's a lot of different perspectives, right? As someone who's kind of a casual for fun player, what I think is right might be different than the code of ethics a Pro Tour grinder whose living depends on winning a Pro Tour is. But what do you guys think? What would you do in that situation? Do you tap the land or concede the game, or do you take the free win knowing that in theory you should be 1 mana short if the game was played correctly from actually winning?
I mean, I see it happen all the time. People forget to tap mana, right? I think that's an honest mistake. But the thing here is, if I get if I get called out on it or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you should have 2 mana instead of 3," I'd say, "Oh, sure, you're right.
Tap the
Okay,
land.
okay, I lose. Cool beans, right?" Like I think you take the L there. But like
Okay,
I don't
let me
know.
phrase it a different way. Okay, game is on the line, 4th and 5,000. Okay, you throw
Sure.
a bomb down the field, right? There's some contact, some stumble, maybe some acting, some flail, PI. Okay, and it's the most questionable
sure.
PI you've seen in
You
your
gotta
life.
decline it.
You're gonna decline it. You're gonna be like, no, decline. Tom Brady tuck rule. I'm like, no, that's not. What is this tuck rule? We all know that's a fumble. No, right? Like, if it was an honest mistake, okay, like let's assume it's honest, right? But it doesn't matter if it's honest or not because a judge comes in and the judge rules. This is how much mana you have. You take it, right? Like, why would you take it, right? Like,
because
you're
why?
playing
Because
to
you
win, and it's within the rules, and you didn't try to scumbag them, right? Like, it's literally what the rule is set up. You take the penalty. You don't decline it on some weird. You're like, I think my wide receiver took a dive. Actually, he needed to tough it up and not fall over. So that's not a PI. We'll just turn it over on downs. Right? I mean, the judge was there.
I don't know. is that like, okay, fair is fair, I guess, like if you want to say that, but I mean, I guess, like, I don't know. If it were me, granted that I am very casual, I guess, so I don't, like, my livelihood is not like I need to win this tournament. Maybe for me, I'm just like, I'm not gonna be the front page of Reddit today. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and just take the L, right? Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's actually just not worth it.
I think when it comes down to it, like, being thought of as a good person or a non-scummy person in losing, I would rather have that than people thinking I'm like being scummy or doing something sketchy and winning. But again, I also am not, it's not like my living is dependent on whether or not I win a tournament game. I know, here, my example of this is if I play on Moto and my opponent's like, we're playing like a fair game and my opponent's like running low on clock, I'll kind of concede, right? Like, if it's like comes down to it and I know they're gonna win the game and my opponent's got like 2 seconds left.
I don't know about that.
That's different, though. There's no say.
That's different.
I told you, if you lose your job, your livelihood for the year. Okay, and you're like, am I being the scumbag or is it the judge and the way this game is set up, right? And the mistake happened on both players who didn't catch it to begin with. But if you're granted a free mana, don't you take it? It's within the rules of the game, right? There's no cheating. There's no.
The judge ruled on it.
You didn't even angle shoot, right? Like, the judge came in and gave you a free mana, and there was no misrepresentation of anything. Like, don't you just take it?
I think I would. I would like to think I would
cheating?
scoop there. Maybe I wouldn't. So, okay, the cheating thing's interesting. So, if it was done intentionally, and we have no way of judging anyone's intent. This wasn't even on camera, right? This is just from people talking about it. If you intentionally were like, I'm going to not tap this land because I need 1 more mana to win the game, and hopefully no one catches me on it and the judge rules in my favor, that would be cheating. If you're intentionally not tapping a land that you know you needed to tap to cast something, I think that's cheating. But cheating's all about intent, right? People make mistakes. So if you did accidentally just forget to tap the land and the game goes on, and by the time they caught it, it's too late, that would be, I guess, an honest mistake. So I don't think I think it all comes down to what the intent is, and I don't know how we can ever judge that in this scenario.
But if your intent wasn't to cheat, right, and all of that, then you just take the L, right? Like, you just say, hey, I didn't have the mana then. Never mind.
Why are you
I lost.
overruling the judge and just making random game decisions, right? Like, it's not like you have a choice, Grim. It's like, no, you're actively protesting against the judge's call, which I guess you could die the hero and be applauded for fake internet points, right? But like, no one does this in any actual sport, right? You're like, oh, it looks like my left guard was holding, so I'm not going to take this play. I'm just going to crumple over because that was clearly a hold that the ref missed, right? Like, no one ever does that, right? Like, there's a call by the ref and you accept it. And if it's a shady call, you accept it anyway, right? Like, you just accept what's in your favor normally, right? Like, why does Magic have this different set of rules than every other sport that you see?
Well, because one, we're not getting paid multi-millions here, okay?
Isn't that all the more reason to eke out every
okay,
because you know you can't go home and cry in your $20 billion?
There's no monetary value. I think in reality, it's just mostly, I think this is just, if you're doing it with the intent of cheating, that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
that's like the same way that I despise that Draymond Green just like clotheslines people while he's playing basketball. I'm like, yo, this is the dude who's got like 0 basketball highlights and they're all wrestling replays for an NBA career.
He's a defensive
right? Like,
player. What do you want?
Sure, just call it defensive, whatever, right? But like, dude, I'm sorry. I do not like that kind of player. And, you know, you mentioned the flop. We've seen tons of times where people flop and injure people. Like, you know, my Kings, they had Luka flopped into Monk and that injured him. So the main thing here is I despise flopping as well. So I'm sorry if you're flopping, if you know you're not cheating, if your intent is to cheat, then that's a different story, right? But if your intent isn't to cheat, then just take the L, because that's what happened, right? You made an honest mistake and it's fine. Just own it.
Yeah. Crim's argument's kind of convincing to me. Like, I see what Richard is saying, that why would we judge Magic differently than other sports? And in other sports, people wouldn't, you know, decline the pass interference or whatever, or like, you know, give the ball to the other team because they got away with a flop or something. Like, that just wouldn't happen. At the same time, though, it is a little sus, right? If it was all accidental, because I think if you just made a mistake, it seems like I'd be like, oh yeah, oops, you know, whatever. Like, I'll tap my land. So I do see where Crim's coming from.
It should be exactly as all other sports, in that the rage should be put against the judging system, not the particular judge, right? Because the particular judge just did their job, right? But the fact that they couldn't rewind this when it looked like 2 phases passed and like nothing crazy happened, it seems like we should be outraged at the NFL refereeing and the replay system and whatever, as opposed to the team taking or declining the penalty, right? Because no one ever gets flack for taking or declining the penalty. It's always the judges, and they all go back and they change their judge protocol for the next season, right? So the flack should be like, why couldn't we rewind this and make him tap the mana? Because everyone kind of agreed that that was the board state, right? So we should look at that rather than blaming or not blaming people for taking the judge call, right? Like, that seems weird to me.
Do you think it's different in Magic because cheating requires intent, or breaking the rules requires intent? And it just reminds me, like, remember Alex Berengini? He made like a career off of, you know, making an extra land drop here, like maybe draw an extra brainstorm card here. And it was really hard to ever be like, oh, this dude was cheating, because people make mistakes, right? Like the line in Magic between intentionally cheating and being a soppy player making a mistake is pretty much invisible most of the time. With Alex Berengini, it took like 5 years of him doing this until it eventually like caught up with him, and people were like, oh my God, he did this 100 times. So now we know, like, you couldn't make that mistake that many times in a row accidentally. Like, do you think that's the difference? Is we like, you have to be able to trust that your opponent's like trying to do the right thing, because if your opponent wants to be doing the wrong thing, it's pretty easy for them to get away with in Magic because of how it's set up.
Nah, we just call everything cheating in Magic. Like so if you notice, right? Like, let's say you forget to tap the land, you forget to draw a card, you like brainstorm incorrectly, even if it's your first offense ever, people don't think of it as like a game's rule violation or something, right? They're like, this guy is cheating. But in any sport, right? If I go and horse collar tackle you, I like helmet to helmet you or whatever, people are not like, oh my God, he's cheating. You're like, that's a flag, right? Like, for some reason, if you can't maintain the state in Magic, people automatically use the word cheating as opposed to penalty or anything else. And I don't know why. Like if you just do an illegal move in the NFL, that's called a penalty and not cheating, right? But if you do an illegal move in Magic, everyone pins you as a cheater. So I don't know why we have that attitude exactly.
Yeah. I think that's true. But at the same time, like, it's much more cut and dried in other sports, right? Yeah, like, you can't get a pass interference on someone and be like, well, I didn't intend to do that. I just kind of, you know, I tripped over myself a little bit and knocked him over early, but like, I didn't mean to do that, so it's not a penalty.
But you get the penalty no matter what you say, right?
I had no intent. But in Magic, if you have no intent, you get no penalty. So that's kind of the difference, right? If you're like, I didn't intend to do this, it's like, oh, okay, well, carry on then, you get a free mana. So I think that's like, I think that's what makes it a little bit like, maybe there should be some sort of penalty. Like maybe you get a warning.
There
like,
are,
I don't
right?
know.
Like if you get a couple warnings, it escalates, right? Like you can't just do it forever, which is why you're supposed to call it on your opponent, even though you thought they were just being sloppy, right? Because if they're quote unquote sloppy
The
like
pattern,
4 times in 3 games, then that's like, okay, now you're cheating, right? So you're supposed to always call it on your opponent, even though you don't suspect malice. But like it escalates, right? Like 2 yellows equals a red or something, right? Like eventually you just get ejected, right? So it's just a lot softer in Magic, right? Because you don't see the consequence. You're not watching the rest of the rounds to see that guy eventually got red carded or something, right? So you don't really see it happen.
Well, the one thing here is like, so normally when you read through it, it just says that the player, she had played like methodical all the way through the whole match, right? And it wasn't until the end where she got she just out of nowhere sped up and just kind of played super sloppy right when it started winding down to the wire, right? So if I notice the game pace change and like a little bit of your mentality change, if you've been methodical the whole way through, and then all of a sudden at the very end, if you're gonna speed up, that's fine. But like at that point, it does seem a little bit weird that
you just crack under pressure, man. What if I played flawlessly all 50 minutes and in the 51st minute I punted and lost the game? Like maybe
you know that
right? It's
happen.
like,
but again,
so there's actual cheating allegations that it was done on purpose. Then, right? Like, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
And they did take the
shift
free
was
mana,
weird.
right? The actual result was they took the free mana and took the win, right?
That's the main thing.
It's interesting.
It certainly
I
could
would
be
just
cheating.
take the L.
Yeah,
I would just take the
It certainly could be cheating. I just don't know how I can judge someone's intent. Like I don't have enough information.
Why
to, like,
can they rewind
try to
it,
be
though?
like someone's cheated?
And that's what I don't understand.
So
like it was very main phase, untap, upkeep, do some stuff. Like it didn't seem like some crazy amount of stuff happened.
So it seemed like the issue was the drawing of cards, like casting the questing seek the beast of the questing druid to like draw the cards, and that is what they determined was like too much progress. They went too far to be able to rewind it.
There was
that
reveals
running up to the line and snapping the ball real quick before the replay can be.
Just hurry up to the line. Yeah, don't let them see the replay. It is kind of like that. Maybe
quick draw some cards. Quick draw some cards.
Maybe that's the. Although this time it was actually the opponent that drew the card, so it wasn't like the person doing it. But still, maybe there's a way they could do that better. Like maybe that's the solution. I do agree with that. Like there's got to be a way to make this situation end better, right? Like I don't know what the judge could do differently though. Like what's the judging solution that makes this situation resolve positively?
Allow them to roll back. I'm sure you can roll this back, right? Like can we sit down and roll it back to the same state? I'm sure we can, but I think the onus is on you to protect yourself. Like the way to catch it is you can self-referee in Magic. That's the difference, right? So when the person does not pay mana for their card, you call it out right there if you catch it, right? Because like in this case, everyone blames the cheating player, but in reality, both people get assessed a penalty for not maintaining game state, right? Like both people should have caught that mana was not paid. Right. So if you are the opponent in this case, you can catch that mana was not paid and make them pay it right there. And then this whole situation is avoided. So you can kind of self-referee. You can throw in the challenge flag in Magic. So that's the way to do it. But in reality, like you're trying to think of like your lines to not die or to win the game. And like 8 million things are racing through your head. It's very easy to miss things like this. But comes with the game, I guess, right? Like it's gotta be what you play Alex Bertoncini, you gotta play 2 players at once. You gotta make sure game state is correct, right?
You gotta, you gotta beat the refs and the opponent. Well, I'm curious if people are watching. What would you do in that scenario? Are you scooping? Are you tapping the land? Are you taking the win? I'm very curious what the community thinks on this one. So if you're watching this, let us know in the comments how you would handle this situation. But I got to ask you guys about one other thing before we get to fish mail. And this, This just blew my mind, and I want to know if you think it's true. So a couple days ago on Reddit, there was this Reddit post that was like, I found this big metal container of Magic cards in a free pile by the side of the road. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's someone found, a bunch of bulk, on the side of the road. That's kind of neat. I've never found free Magic cards. But then like a day later, the person came back and started posting pictures of these cards, and it is like the dream find. It is literally what every Magic player dreams of, that you're walking down the road and pick up a box, and it's got 7 original dual lands. It's got multiple Wheel of Fortunes. It's got Blood Moon from the Dark. It's got Maze of It. It's all this stuff from like 1994, 1995, thousands of dollars worth of cards. And they have pictures of the whole thing. Do you think this is real? Is this the luckiest person of all time, or are we all getting scammed by this? Because I've been talking to people about it. I did a little short on YouTube about it, and half the people are like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. Here's the time I haven't found something cool. And the other half are like, there's no way this is real. That's someone's collection. They just took these pictures and made up this story to get, some karma on Reddit or whatever. Do you think this is legit? Is this just like the greatest roadside find in Magic history?
I think this is the sickest flex of your own collection. Because there's no way this is real, dude. People go into stores showing, like, bringing anything and everything that they find on the ground, right? They have their old collections. They'll bring, like, I don't know, healing salve in, right? And they'll be like, is this $1 million? Nowadays, in the current age, everybody knows that if it's an old card or anything at all, you bring it into the store, right? And you try to find somebody to sell it to. And I think this is also kind of caught up with any kind of collectible. Everyone assumes everything's worth $1 million because it's old, which is not true. So I don't believe that someone just magically just left a bunch of old cards on the side of the curb here in the trash. This just has to be somebody's collection that they know.
What do you think, Richard?
It's so much effort for nothing. I think,
dude,
it's a crazy low percentage. So, like, if you play like any RNG game, like say Diablo or something, right? And someone posts loot every day on top of the subreddit, there is some piece of loot, and you calculate the odds, it's like 1 in 300 million. You're like, it's exceptionally low to get this combination of rolls in this number or whatever. And every day, there's a new one posted, right? Because there's just so many people online that stuff that's sheerly highly improbable just happens a lot, right? And then that's kind of the fallacy of social media. You walk around, you're like, wow, that's kind of normal. In reality, it's not. I feel this is actually just a crazy find. Someone just cleared out some crap, threw it out, and didn't bother looking through it. And it's 1 in 300 million, right? And then the person found it and posted it on Reddit. Otherwise, what would be the gain for this? To spend all your time to farm karma points to do
upvotes? You got the guy those,
yeah. Like, 2,800 points. This is what you need to do. And it seems really hard, right? It seems easier that someone was just liquidating their office or whatever. They don't understand what they have. Like, I can throw out Reddit.
No, dude, I don't
know it's worth anything, right? I'm like, oh,
I don't believe that, dude. My time at working, I used to work at CFB, at the card store, right, and whatnot. And dude, people would bring the most garbage in, and like all the time. And they're like, "Did I hit it big?" And I'm like, "No, this is 25 cents. I will give you 25 cents for everything."
Here's my theory. Here's what makes sense to me: is if you look at these cards, they're all like mid-90s, right? Like revised up through maybe 1998, like that time period. There's no more modern cards. It's not like there was accidentally something, from the last 10 or 15 years in there. I think what happened, there's also a demonic tutor with Kelvin and a clipping of a Kelvin and Hobbes poster like glued to the demonic tutor. I think this was some like 12-year-old's kid's collection in 1995 that played Magic like during high school or something, moved away 30 years later. His parents found it in the attic or found it in the basement and just piled a bunch of stuff by the side of the road. And they just think, oh, it's some stupid kids, like it's just junk, right? They don't know anything about Magic. That's my guess. I think it's real, and it's just like the kid quit playing 20 years ago. It's been laying around his parents' house, and they put it on the side of the road with a bunch of other stuff, and this person just stumbled into the greatest find of all time. Could it be fake? It could be. Like, I could see how you could fake this if you wanted to, but kind of like Richard said, I don't know if just the Reddit karma, I don't know. I guess people do a lot for points
Yeah,
on
exactly.
the internet. So maybe that actually is enough of an incentive for someone to do this, but
the one thing I've learned is
story,
exactly that, Seth. People will do a lot, go above and beyond for like one like.
Yeah.
But I will say, if whoever's
taking the
collection
feel good
is,
story and moving on, why does there have to be so skeptical? This is not the first. Like, you see it all the time. Like, you go to some place and you buy some vintage collection of PS1 games or something, like all sealed or whatever. You know, someone threw out a brand new PS1 I saw on Reddit the other day, like sealed.
Cool.
You know, like,
wow.
People get rid of garbage all the time that they don't understand, especially so your parents. Your parents are cleaning out your stuff. They don't know what's treasure and what's trash, right? They're just cleaning out stuff. So
I genuinely believe retro video games is a different world, though. People can definitely throw those out. I think that because not many people will assume that, oh, why would a game that has 3 polygons be worth a lot of money, right? Like, you think of it from the playability standpoint, right? Like, we're not there. A lot of people are doing it. There's a lot of people that collect retro video games, but the world hasn't really adapted to the fact that, like, I paid a silly amount of money just to get Pokemon Soul Silver. Right? Like, I own Pokemon Soul Silver, and that costs a lot of money for no reason. I will also say, though, one thing, Richard, did you notice the Banalish hero in this collection? It's a Moogle. It's a Moogle. It's a Moogle.
This tells me it's real, right?
This is important, by the way.
This is what
is that a
collection?
That is
important.
Is that a
no? That's Final Fantasy. You're gonna see that probably, right? I have to assume there's gonna be Moogles somewhere in the summer. So,
and we spend so long conditioning our parents. They're like, "Where'd you get these cards from? How much are they worth?" $1. $1. I spent $1 on this, right? You're holding like hundreds of dollars of cards.
Yeah.
You tell your parents it's worth nothing. Don't worry, Mom. Don't worry.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's fine, right? And then they're like, "Oh, he said it was $1. Let's just throw this all out."
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. If it is true, it is one of the luckiest finds.
All right, Seth, get your collection.
My first,
we're gonna farm some karma. We'll dump it on the side of the road.
Yeah. My first thought was, man, that would have made the best opening video of all time. Like, if you actually just stumbled on this on the side of the road, my God, what a banger video. But not everyone can be that lucky. Anyway, we're getting near the end of the cast, but it's 2025. We made promises. Richard, let's sneak in a fish mail real quick.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. BB Bob 2. Why is a green land tutor like Myco Spawn okay, but using a black tutor for something like Coffers against the Singleton Spirit? Is the reason you find black weak in Commander not because you neglect their main strength while embracing it everywhere else?
Ooh.
So
yes, I mean, yes, that's probably part of it.
So Seth, you were actually a person that actively does not play black tutors because it negates the Singleton. But your favorite card, probably your card of the year, was Myco Spawn. Myco Spawn. Explain.
I think it's so. Here's my justification: and this maybe it's just hypocritical. I will fully admit that, but my argument would be, sowing Myco Spawn only is going to get a land. And yes, lands have gotten way more powerful, so it can get really good lands. The thing I don't like about Demonic Tutor, and the reason I try to limit the number of tutors I play, is it can get anything. If I was only ever tutoring up Cabal Coffers or Urborg or whatever, I think it would probably be fine. But it's also like, it's my Wrath when I need it. It's my targeted removal spell when I need it. It's my finisher when I need it. And I think that takes away from the Singleton nature. Although, I don't know, maybe it's wrong to think of lands differently. For some reason, I think of like, maybe because of fetch lands and rampant growth, but I think of tutoring out a land is a different category than tutoring out non-lands. Maybe I shouldn't think of it that way, but I think that's why it feels different to me. I don't know, does it not feel different to you, like lands versus non-lands?
I hate it. I think they're all the same. I mean, what do you think? I despise
you play fetches,
green,
though, don't you, Krim? You play fetch lands. You don't click a fetch and think, oh, I'm tutoring. I'm breaking the spirit of the format.
I think like a fetch land, I'll give the go, right? Like I'll ignore that. Obviously, I'm not going to be out here telling you Evolving Wilds is the devil's work, right? Like, you know what I mean? But I will say that the other cards like Sylvan Tutors or yeah, like Explosive Veggies, things like that, those are all the devil's work to me. So
I don't know where Krim picked up this new lingo from, but I'm all for it. I think this is boomer mentality. I think if you play Commander, you break Singleton Spirit all the time. You're like, give me 8 2-mana ramp spells, give me 6 4-mana ramp spells, give me 8 wraths, give me 10 card draw spells and 37 lands. Done. Deck is done. You just played Yorion, okay? But you kept all the ratios. Your deck does the same thing every time. If you really want to play true Singleton, 1 card draw spell, 1 ramp spell, 1 finisher, go at it, right? But we want our decks to work. We want them to be consistent, right? So
yeah,
I feel people just draw an arbitrary line of tutors because I don't know, they're strong and people are salty, just like people are strong, salty against any strong card. But I would say if you are a good Commander deck builder, you break Singleton so hard, even if you don't use tutors anyway, right? Like your 8 rampant growth effects. Like, tell what is that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that Singleton format to you, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm a bad Commander deck builder. I purposely do not try
you
to
get
do
1
the
counter
fancy
spell,
thing.
Krim.
Hey,
Singleton.
you got
1
10
counter
Wrath
spell.
Krim and 10
Okay.
counters. I know you.
Okay. That's fine because I need those because I play a Singleton game, so I need to find these cards naturally.
Oh.
All right. If you have questions, you can send them at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I think that brings us to the end of episode 518 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Grimm, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.